From Chicago's CAN TV, this is Chicago Newsroom.
Well, hi there. It's Chicago Newsroom. As you know, I'm Ken Davis here on CAN TV. You know that on this program we like to celebrate journalism and the journalists who do it. And one of our favorite topics is beat reporting. I'm reminded of how we spoke a while back to Sarah Karp about how one day after a CPS board meeting, she was sitting there going over the agenda of the meeting she just covered, and something kind of caught her eye. It was this huge $20 million no-bid contract for training principals or something, and there'd been no discussion of it in public. So to shorten a very long story, more than a year later, the question she raised resulted in an investigation and the ultimate resignation of Barbara Byrd Bennett. And as we all know, she ended up pleading guilty to a complex kickback scheme that landed her a 7-year prison term. That's good beat reporting. And so is this, what we're talking about today. Claudia Morell covers City Hall and the county for Daily Line, and a couple of weeks ago it dawned on her that she covers a lot of stories about companies getting tax breaks if they agree to expand their businesses or maybe hire a few more people, or if they work to keep employees from leaving Chicago. So Claudia started compiling the data. Let's find out how much we're spending on this. Who's getting these benefits? And that is where our conversation picks up today. Claudia Morell, welcome back.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. Daily Line, we often say good things about the Daily Line, but one of the real benefits of Daily Line is that it's there every day and gives us a kind of a report from City Hall and the county building of the key things that were going on. And you, of course, are key to that. So let's start this conversation today with this thing about property tax breaks. I mean, it's not a program, right? It's an agglomeration of...
It's more of a, I guess you could call it a program. It's an incentive that's actually administrated by the Cook County Assessor's Office. So Joe Barrios oversees the full program.
He's in the news lately.
Yes, he is, from the Tribune investigation. And so the way it works, it's a pretty complex system, but there are various classes that developers can apply for to get a reduced property tax bill. And it goes through the county and not the city, because they handle the property taxes for the entire county. And
so this would be a tax break that a business would get. And so this would be the county taxes, obviously. So that's why it's at the county.
Yeah, like so for example, most industrial properties, the set tax rate is 25%. But if a developer applies for a Class 6B tax break, which is made to incentivize people to buy old dilapidated industrial warehouse property in Chicago, which there is still a lot of. And if they are approved for the break, they get a 10% tax rate for the first 10 years. And then it is increased to 15 the following year, and then to 20 the year after.
So these are property taxes that we're talking about, right? Okay, all right.
And so we compiled a data set where it says the total tax savings over the life of the incentive that the applicant is expected to achieve. But that also doesn't factor in, as you know, like when you pay property taxes, portions go to the various taxing districts. So we weren't able to determine what the loss is to the city, just the entire overall. And a lot of that kind of has to do with how the program is administered. The only information that's publicly available for these tax incentives are through mayoral press releases, the ones that the mayor sends out at the end of every monthly city council meeting, where he says, these are all the items I introduced and these are all the items that passed. And included in that package is a list called various land use measures introduced to city council. And you'll see lists of companies and their associated tax breaks.
And you're the only reporter out of the whole gaggle at City Hall who even notices that those things are there, I'm sure.
Yeah, because
It's your job.
one of my jobs is to cover every single city council meeting, and there's one committee on the city council. It's capital, tech, and economic development, and this is pretty much the only thing that they consider. This and various appointments to certain land boards.
Okay, so I'm an existing business or I'm a business just getting started, and I really need to get my tax cut. So what do? I say, well, I'm going to hire more people than you might expect, or I'm going to promise to keep them. I mean, what is this? What is the promise that I have to make to get this cash?
Most of the common ones are either there's an existing business located in like North Branch, which is undergoing a rezone. And as you know, like property rates have increased significantly and they can no longer afford to do business there. And so they tell the city, I'm gonna buy this property in another industrial corridor where I will be able to stay in Chicago and keep all my 100 jobs. And if you don't give this to me, then I'm going to be forced to move out of state.
To Bedford Park.
Or to another county.
To another county.
And then there are other cases where a business will say, I will move to Chicago, but it's going to cost me a lot of money to rehabilitate this 100-year-old warehouse. So I'm going to apply for a Class 6B so I can get a reduced break so then I can spend my capital on acquiring the property and upgrading it. And so those are probably the two most common ones. And then there's also one for landmarks. So like the Essex Inn Hotel, right in the 4th Ward right off Michigan, right?
Avenue,
there is a development firm that's building out the Essex Inn. They're building a massive tower right next to it, and it's going to be also apartment buildings. Well, the Essex Inn got landmark status so that they could apply for the Class L, and they will be able to save $10 million over the life of the incentive with that tax break.
So that's no small chunk of change.
And same with the company that's building all the new CTA cars in Hegwich in the 10th Ward. They also applied for a Class 6B because they are building a new facility there to build the cars.
And they're hiring a bunch of people. So you found something like 60 of these projects, is that right? I know we have a map, we can put it up on the screen. I mean, it looks like many of these are kind of out on the west side, formerly industrial, and
around
probably
25th Ward, Pilsen area.
and like near west where there's a lot of loft buildings and that kind of thing, and then a few things scattered out here and there. So that's where a lot of this kind of development is going on. So there are about 60 of these. How much money? One of the things we talked about last week when we were talking about the Joe Barrios thing is every time somebody gets a tax break, I have to go back in and put a few bucks in to refill the coffer because of the money that they're not putting in. So how much money is Cook County not collecting as a result of this program?
Since May 2015, among the 60 applications, total tax savings is about $92 million.
Okay.
But I say that with the caveat of these items go through City Council approval, but they go through as honorary resolutions because the local alderman needs to support the tax break. But it's up to Joe Barrios to give final determination.
I see, okay.
And so now DPD, the Department of Planning and Development, is doing a new initiative with the county. It's part of their 3-year pilot program to increase jobs and development throughout the county, where they're going to expedite some of these. So if a project is located in a certain Thrive zone, it will no longer go through the city council process. DPD will just approve
I've never heard
it.
that term, a thrive zone, before. That's a brand new one. I mean, what is a thrive zone?
There-
The 606 probably, or something like that.
Yeah, there are different kinds. It's kind of complicated. Like, I can't say it at the top of my head. There are retail thrive zones. There are industrial corridor thrive zones. And I mean, a lot of the ones that would benefit from this expedited process are located in industrial corridors.
This, I will have to admit, is a very difficult thing for you to do on television. This is not a television story. Yeah. This is a print or a pixel story, and you do a terrific job with it at the Daily Line. But I just found myself just incredibly fascinated by this, because obviously the question I want to ask, and I know you can't answer it because the data's not there, but the question I want to ask is, are we getting $92 million worth of value out of this program? Am I, as a county taxpayer, glad that this is happening, or is it just like a sop to a bunch of developers who are friends of the mayor or something?
Well, like, the ironic thing is at these meetings, and this has been happening more recently, aldermen have been asking what is the process that DPD uses to make sure that developers are filling their promise in terms of job growth, and if they're actually putting the money towards rehabilitating these projects.
And the answer is, do we know?
We'll get back to you, is what DPD tells aldermen at the meetings, or we will submit that through the chair.
Because, see, that was the sense I had after reading your first piece on this. It's like, so these tax breaks go on for like 10 years? And the promise is, if you'll give me this tax break, I will employ 35 people, or I'll retain 100 people, or something like that. So 10 years out, is there a bureaucrat who's actually sitting keeping score on this and saying, oh, you only retained 31 instead of 100, so we're only going to give you 31 well, I mean, you've already not paid these taxes, right? So it's kind of a hard thing to monitor.
Yeah, and another wrinkle is that the assessor's website, I don't know if you've been on it recently, but it has no records of this. And if you want to submit a FOIA for it, you have to fax it in.
I've heard that, yeah.
And so we faxed our FOIA, and
well,
we
at least
haven't.
You don't have to walk it in person, like dressed in costume or something. Yeah.
But we haven't heard back yet.
We'll get back to you as soon as we answer all these FOIAs from the Tribune about how we've been under-assessing and over-assessing the entire county. Wow. So the numbers that you say are that for this $92 million. We've been promised 7,100 new jobs and retention of 3,600 others. So you just did some quick math on that. What am I paying for these jobs?
Hold on, let's see. I had all the numbers here somewhere.
What I have.
Okay. Yes, 8,500 per promised job.
Yeah.
And that includes retained, temporary construction, and permanent. But when you just do new permanent jobs and construction, that goes up to like $10,000 a job. Yeah. And then if you do just permanent, it's like $23,000.
So I'm saying to you, I'm going to rehab this warehouse and I'm going to hire 100 people. But 46 of those people are the people who are going to build out my space. And then they're gone after 6 months or 8 months. But I'm going to get 10 years of benefit out of this. Yeah, okay, all right. So
yeah, most of the highest job rates are for the temporary construction. Usually the new permanent is anywhere from 10 to, if it's a huge place, maybe a couple hundred. But construction is usually the highest, and those are temporary.
I know that your job is not to, you're not a columnist, you're not here for opinions and everything, but I got to say that looking at this, it really doesn't look to me like, as a taxpayer, I'm getting $92 million worth of value out of these various programs. But that's me. I can say that because I don't work for anybody, so I can just say that. Let's expand this conversation a little bit to talk about NOFs.
Neighborhood Opportunity Bonus Fund.
Okay, NOBFs.
And it was created, or the City Council approved the incentive or program or whatever you want to call it, last May 2016. And it was designed by DPD's Commissioner David Reifman, who the mayor hired for his second term. And what it did, basically...
Former developer.
Oh yeah, he was a lawyer at DLA Piper, a major land use attorney that does a lot of stuff in a Fulton market. And so the way the program works is, I'm a developer and I want to build a high-rise in downtown. And you know how there is various zoning districts in downtown, like there's the issue now with the Thompson Center and how they want to increase the zoning so that the property is worth more. Well, under the bonus fund, I can build more square footage than is allowed in the zoning code if I pay a premium for it. And the equation is pretty complicated. They use something called the FAR, floor to area ratio, and you multiply that by the market rate per square foot of the area.
I'll take your word for that.
And so
stipulated.
So like the amounts, like there are large amounts. The average is probably like $2 million. You paid $2 million for the bonus. The large, like McDonald's, the Harper Studio development that they're doing, they paid $4 million for the bonus. The 110 West Wacker that's coming online right off of the river, they are putting in the most. Well, they're projected to put in $15.8 million into the fund, and I say projected. A lot of these numbers are projections because, like the affordable housing money that the city collects, developers only pay it after their zoning has been approved, but before the permitting process. So you basically can't get your permits until you pay the money. And as you know, like some developments take a long time to go through because of the financing. And so just because a company says that they're gonna put in $10 million for the bonus and then they don't break ground until 4 years later, the city isn't gonna see that money. And there's one report that tracks that money, and it's the quarterly housing report that DPD puts out. And it goes through City Council, so you can't see those numbers, if you know where to look.
But you do know this is the most transparent administration in Chicago history, right? So just keep that in mind all the time when you're looking for these numbers. So this is something that has been called by the mayor's detractors a slush fund, because the mayor gets this money and then gets to dole it out, really kind of just sitting at his desk with a pen and pencil, I guess, or just says, oh yeah, I can give you $10,000, I can give you $40,000. And again, it's one of these things that on paper looks like it's probably a pretty good idea because this is small grants. They take this money, chop it up into small grants, and give it to small business people who are looking to expand or improve their businesses, right? What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, when the program was designed, they put a $250,000 threshold. So anything below that amount doesn't require City Council approval.
Oh, that's why it's $250,000.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So
an alderman can come to the mayor and say, "Hey, my buddy really needs $100K for his little restaurant," and the mayor can just say, "No, let me look in the drawer. Yeah, I got it." And that's it.
The cynical way, yes, cynical way of putting it.
Yes.
But yeah, so small businesses, they have to be located in certain areas of the city that are called retail thrive zones. And they have to follow a certain number of criteria because the city isn't just going to dish out the money to anyone. The business has to be pretty established. And so that's why a lot of the recipients have been around forever, like the Gutschard Gallery, where J.B. Pritzker announced that he was running for governor. That place got some bonus funds. And then another soul food restaurant in the 16th ward that's been around for a decade. They got the most amount to build out their restaurant because the point is they want catalytic investments. I remember Reef Min saying that one of the best examples is like the Whole Foods by Kennedy King. They want a project that's going to then spur development around it. But yeah, a lot of the detractors said that they were worried that this was just going to be a way for the mayor to dole out money to his allies. And in our story, you can see it. We have a picture where they're announcing the program, the initiative, and it's David Reefman and the mayor, and every alderman that's standing next to them received money through the program.
Well, that would be a scandal if it were that others didn't, though. So, I mean, has it been pretty evenly spread around the city?
Well, only certain parts of the city qualify for it.
I'm sorry, that's right. Yeah. So, has it been pretty evenly spread around the places where it should go?
That's where our analysis came in. So what I did was I then compared it to the U.S. Census community survey data, so which shows how the city is broken down by community areas, and they have a percent unemployment, percent below poverty, per capita income, and some of the areas with the highest unemployment rates did not get it. So like Inglewood, West Inglewood, Fuller Park, Oakland, and then what else?
Well, that's really not. I mean, we don't need to have a complete reading of the list, but the point though is that the thing that struck me about that is that maybe if you're just getting started with this, you want to try to get to relatively healthy established businesses who are in a position that they might be able to move forward rather than put money into an area where there's absolutely nothing going on, right? Although, of course, that's part of what it's supposed to do too. It's supposed to plant seeds everywhere.
And that's what the administration said when we reached out to them for comment. They said that we needed to look at it more holistically, that this is just one tool in the toolbox for helping small businesses, and that they have small business improvement funds, that they have other initiatives to help businesses in areas of the city that need it the most. But this is just the first awardees, and through the data, it shows that they are concentrated in wards that are overseen by mayoral allies. And it is the first round.
I'm shocked by this.
They are supposed to be doing another round maybe later this year or the beginning of next year. And they said that 700 applied, 700 businesses.
Really? No kidding.
And those who fit the eligibility criteria but didn't receive it this first round will still get to be in the pool for the next round.
Okay, all right. Well, Claudia, this is what we were talking about at the beginning. This is what reporting is about, is looking around you and seeing that there's something that looks a little like it's rippling off in the edges there, and I want to go in and wade in and find out what it is. And I congratulate you and all the guys over at Daily Line for doing this, because we really need that kind of reporting. So thank you. Thank you. We will have you back again, because there's a million times that we see these kinds of things. So thanks for your work, all right? You've been watching Chicago Newsroom. It's a production of CAN TV. I'm Ken Davis, thanking you for watching, and we will be back next week with yet another conversation on who knows what. We haven't figured it out yet, but as we're just going to air, we're beginning to read the reports on the health care bill. The Senate is just dropping it on our heads right now, so we'll probably want to talk about that too. See you next week. Thanks for watching. Don't forget you can watch our show anytime right here at this address and listen to us on SoundCloud. Thanks. Bye-bye.